Gilmore Girls, the American dramedy show by Amy Sherman Palladino, first aired on October 5, 2000 on the WB. The show starred Lauren Graham as Lorelai Gilmore and Alexis Bledel as Rory Gilmore, the mother-daughter duo the show existed around. It ran for 7 seasons, its final season airing on the CW, ending on May 15, 2007. As previously mentioned, the show surrounds the lives of the 32-year-old single mother Lorelai and her academically driven teenage daughter Rory. Lorelai hopes to run her own inn, while Rory is hard at work to attend Harvard University. To reach both of their goals, the two interact with Lorelai's extremely rich parents, Emily and Richard, portrayed by Kelly Bishop and Edward Herman respectively, who help pay for Rory's tuition at the private school of Chilton in Hartford, Connecticut. In exchange, the two Gilmore Girls must have dinner with Emily and Richard every Friday night. During the first season, the show had the Thursday 8 p.m/7 p.m. Central Time slot, airing before the show Charmed. For its second season, however, it was moved to the Tuesday 8 p.m/7 p.m. slot, originally the spot for Buffy the Vampire Slayer and the lead-in for Smallville, the competitor for ratings. Later, it led to One Tree Hill for seasons 4 and 5, and then to Supernatural for season 6. This will become important later, so let's put a pin on this for now. The viewer ratings for the show were not incredibly large, especially since its existence battled against Friends and Survivor during its first season. However, the series was usually in the top 3 most viewed shows in its time slot for women under 35. The second season first aired with 6.55 million viewers, a hit for the small network, and by season 5, it was the WB's second most watched primetime show. You might be wondering, who cares about a show from the early 2000s that wasn't that popular to begin with? Well, thanks to streaming, the show has come back to the social conscience in the last 10 years. On October 1st, 2014, Netflix began to exclusively house the 7-season show, later becoming available worldwide on the platform on July 1st, 2016. Finally, the 4-episode revival, Gilmore Girls, A Year in the Life, was released on the platform on November 25th, 2016. According to Vanity Fair, the original series was in the overall top 15 media pieces to be streamed in 2022, reporting 20.8 billion streams. It must be noted that Netflix does not release their viewership data to the public, as reported by Rolling Stone magazine, and as actor Sean Gunn, who portrays Kirk in the series, explained in the article, Gilmore Girls' actors sound off on Netflix over show streaming residuals. It is a mystery the true size of the cultural impact that this show has on today's consumers. Recall that pin from the beginning of this video? I think it's time to bring it back to understand why I went on and on about time slots and lead-ins on a video that focuses on the illusion of choice. Gilmore Girls. In real life, too, perhaps. The WB, otherwise known as the WB Television Network, existed from January 11th, 1995 through September 17th, 2006, meaning it operated for 11 years and 244 days. It was owned by 3 different entities: Warner Bros. 64%, Tribune Broadcasting 25%, and Jamie Kellner 11%. This broadcasting network was aimed at the viewership of teenagers and young adults, particularly those between the ages of 13 and 34. As mentioned earlier in this video, Gilmore Girls aired on the aforementioned network for the first 6 seasons, making the show a suitable member to fulfill the viewership expectations. At least, it was believed, so much so by the family-friendly programming forum that it aided in the funding of the pilot episode of the show. The Family-Friendly Programming Forum, otherwise known as the FFPF, is a coalition of 42 major advertisers that provided $1 million in seed money to develop the series, according to the Washington Post. For reference, $1 million in 2000 is equivalent to $1,822,695.50 in October 2023, at least on the authority of the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics CPI inflation calculator. As her name suggests, it sought to support and promote the development of family-friendly television that would air between 8 and 10 p.m., the key primetime slots, for it was believed that adults and children would watch television together at these hours. What exactly is family-friendly television? Well, the Association of National Advertisers, the ANA, explains it to be programming that is appropriate in theme, content, and language for adults and children. It has cross-generational appeal, depicts real life, and resolves issues responsibly. This, in my opinion, is a very vague definition. What is appropriate according to these advertisers, especially in the early 2000s? I sought out more answers and could only find refuge, again, in the Washington Post. In their October 5th, 2000 article, "So This Is What's Family Friendly," Paul Farhi shares a similar confusion. He reports the organization, which includes Sears, AT&T, McDonald's, and General Motors, as explaining that the media must contain no elements that average viewers would find offensive or that the average parent is embarrassed to see with children in the room, and ideally embody an uplifting message. He states, "It's always difficult, of course, to say what an average viewer finds offensive or embarrassing. This is further complicated by the theory that, and I'm quoting here, there were two different strains of morality and values in the United States at the time. One is older, Midwestern, and rural. The other is coastal, younger, and urban, a sentiment expressed by Bob Welling, Global Marketing Officer at Procter & Gamble in 2000. Gilmore Girls was the first recipient of the FFPF's Script Development Fund, an initiative that is funded by 18 member companies to provide seed money that helps develop promising new scripts that could evolve into shows that will appeal across generations. The ANA is adamant in clarifying that the 4 members of this fund have no involvement in the content of the scripts that are financially supported. Even Amy Sherman Palladino supports this statement. She once explained, "I was very nervous about being associated with anything with a name like Family Friendly Forum because it sounds like guys in hoods come in the middle of the night and set the fire to your barn or something. So it was a little scary to me. But the thing is, I never heard from these people. In 5 years, I've never heard from them. I've never seen them. I tried to send them a coffee cup once at Christmas. I couldn't find them. They're like in a bunker in Oslo somewhere. So for some reason, they chose to give us a chunk of change and then go away, which, is my favorite kind of person, basically. So I don't know if we've been kicked out or not because I never met them. I haven't gotten a letter, so I'm assuming they're still cool or they're still in Oslo." I did find it interesting, however, that the ANA in their family-friendly programming forum FQ&A share that the forum instead provided direction and inspiration to the writers that the network selected. I cannot assert that the monetary powers of advertisers and networks influence the politics of this nostalgic show, but as a consumer, I am alerted by the possibility. Now you can see why I dressed up as Luke for this portion of the video.
I went golfing with my grandfather today.
Did you know that golf courses are an environmental blight because of the chemicals they use to keep the grass green? Red meat can kill you. Enjoy.
And this is coffee. It is 2 a.m. So forgive me for the non-aesthetically pleasing background. A little commotion for the outfit. This is supposed to be a replica of Rory Gilmore's shirt from season 5, I think. Although the premise of the show surrounds the unplanned pregnancy of Lorelai and the subsequent life with her daughter Rory, technically, the first pregnancy we witness in the show is Sherry Tisdale's, Christopher Hayden's partner from season 2 through season 5. We first meet Sherry on episode 14 of season 2, It Should Have Been Lorelai, and the couple seems quite serious and eager to involve Rory in their life. The audience is meant to have some form of disdain for her, evident through Lorelai's facial expressions and reactions to Sherry's insistence on bonding with a teenager. Rory later informs Lorelai as well as the audience that Sherry had never thought about having kids or marriage, even though she had previously been in an 11-year-long relationship due to being passionate about her career at L'Oreal.
She wants at least 2. And before she met Dad, she was seriously considering single parenthood.
That's wanting kids.
That's about it.
However, 8 episodes later, Christopher claims to have entered a rough patch in his relationship and thinks of leaving her. All of this is confessed to Lorelai after he has been pretty flirty with her, I might add. I must highlight that when Christopher delineates their time apart, he indicates it commenced with a big business trip where they left things up in the air. Even when Lorelai debriefs the gossip with Rory the next morning, she says, "Guess who's in the process of breaking up? Sherry and your dad." Inadvertently placing the blame on Sherry by naming her first. Could I be reading too much into that comment? Sure. But even Rory can tell that she's gloating with the fact that the father of her child could be single again. Later in the episode, Christopher and Lorelai sleep together.
Timing seems right, Laura.
I know it does. Maybe all this stuff we went through, that's the journey we needed to take to end up here.
Maybe.
Being a family, mom, dad, kid, Volvo.
Ooh, the Volvo will have to go.
It has a nice ring to it.
Yeah, it does.
Soon after this decision of trying to work as a family, Christopher announces to Lorelai, and thus the audience, that Sherry is pregnant, and we are to understand that she will continue with her pregnancy, as indicated by Christopher, explaining, "I missed it before with Rory. I wasn't there and I never forgave myself, so I'm just gonna do that again? I'm just gonna take off, disappear? I'm so sorry. Tell Rory?" The narrative of Sherry's pregnancy becomes intertwined with Lorelai's in Season 3, Episode 13, Dear Emily and Richard. Mixed with the day of Georgia's aka Gigi's birth, we see flashbacks to 16-year-old Lorelai before, during, and after her pregnancy. The first flashback details the moments leading up to, what is presumed, the conception of Rory. We see Lorelai yelling for her mom, removing her sweater, and subsequently dropping it on the floor, joking about registering as Democrat and drinking alcohol alongside Christopher, while he declares that he is planning on not attending college. The second flashback I would like to highlight is when Lorelai's and Christopher's parents are planning on what to do about their children's unplanned teen pregnancy. Plenty of dialogue in the scene sticks out to me, but this back and forth at the commencement of the sequence will be most fruitful for the argument I am building here. It goes as follows. Francine Hayden, who is distraught, asks, "What do we tell people?" And Emily Gilmore replies with, "Well, who needs to know?"
What do you mean, who needs to know?
You don't have to yell at me, Strobe.
Everybody has to know, Emily. Everybody will know. We can't pretend this didn't happen.
We could send her away.
Excuse me?
Aren't there places that take girls like that?
Girls like what, Francine?
Well, girls in... I can't handle this. I can't handle this at all.
Stop crying, damn it.
Christopher is just as much to blame as Lorelai is.
Like hell he is.
They are in this together.
I don't see why. Why should Christopher sacrifice everything we planned for him just because...
Choose your words extremely carefully, Strobe.
Emily, you know we love Lorelai. You know that. But Chris is so young. He's a baby.
Well, Lorelai's not exactly collecting Social Security.
Why doesn't she get rid of it?
I want to briefly pause this scene to say that the first and only time that abortion is brought up in Gilmore Girls, the word abortion is not even used. Why does she get rid of it? So, interesting writing there. Okay, let's return.
What?
It's an option.
It certainly is not an option.
Why not?
Because I say so.
Then what the hell are you suggesting, Emily? What's your great solution to this problem?
They will get married. They will live here. And Christopher will go to work at my company. That is the solution. Now we have a plan.
The writing and acting of the scene portray Emily and Richard, the heads of the Gilmore household, as the ones who are in the right. The Haydens are emotionally impulsive, blaming Lorelai for the pregnancy, while the Gilmores are cool and collected, respecting both the teenagers. When speaking about them, that is, young Lorelai makes the argument that the fact that they are not included in the conversation about their pregnancy is wrong. The end of this episode is bittersweet, for we see that Lorelai experienced her birth and motherhood by herself, while Sherry shares her birth with her fiancé Christopher. Now that we're all on the same page about these two characters and their births, it is finally time for the discussion of the illusion of choice in the world of Gilmore Girls for its female characters and how they were punished with a pregnancy plotline. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, reports that in 2008, a year after the last episode of Gilmore Girls aired, 51% of pregnancies were unintended. In comparison, in the world of Stars Hollow, 5 out of 8 pregnancies portrayed throughout the 7 seasons and Netflix special were not planned by the characters, which is equivalent to 62.5%. These pregnancies include Lane's and Suki's in Season 7, Rory's in A Year in the Life, and the aforementioned ones of Lorelai's and Sherry's. To be transparent, I qualified these as unintended based on the characters' negative reactions to their pregnancies, so you could easily make the argument that all pregnancies portrayed were not strictly sought out after using other parameters. As we can see, the statistics of this fictional narrative are above average the national standard at that point in time. How present sex and pregnancy were throughout the show's run, you'd think the topic of prevention or options would be just as prevalent. After all, the ANA sought family-friendly programming to have cross-generational appeal, depict real life, and resolve issues responsibly. However, the mention of prevention is used in a joking manner, such as when Rory tells her mom that when she had sex for the first time, "I'm okay," and we were, safe. So all of those Trojan men jokes all these years really apparently stuck in season 4, episode 22, Raincoats and Recipes. Contraceptives were only mentioned when Lorelai informs Jackson Belleville, Suki's husband, that she got off the pill, which, combined with Jackson's lack of vasectomy, led to the aforementioned pregnancy in season 7. Characters are seemingly aware of the option of abortion, as indicated by the Stop the War on Choice Planned Parenthood poster up on Rory's dorm wall in season 5, episodes 17 and 19, Pulp Friction, and But I'm a Gilmore, respectively. However, the show does not promote preventative measures, nor does it believe in a woman's right to choose, at least the fictional ones. This is most evident in Emily's comment during the flashback with the Haydens and the reactions of Rory and Lorelai to Lane and Suki's pregnancies in season 7. That, or simply just with the expression,
That's what you get, folks, for making Whoopee.
Lane Kim, by season 7, had pursued her love for music by becoming a drummer in her band Hep Alien and touring. Throughout the show, we see her character flourish, but slowly chip away due to the negligence of the writers. Final nail in the coffin for her character came in season 7 with her unplanned pregnancy, however. She had waited until marriage to have sex, and her first time was so horrible that she did not wish to attempt again. However, that was enough for her to be pregnant with twins, and she's clear in her belief that she is not ready to be a mother. This was the kind of throwing up that you do when you have to do something you can't do, she vents to Rory. Rory reassures her by saying, "Oh, you're going to be a great mother. Maybe someday, but not now," she replies. Never in their conversation does Rory ask how she can help her or how she feels about her pregnancy. She immediately asks how her husband, Zach Van Gerbig, took it. Lane does not return to perform with Hep Alien after giving birth, while Zach does get to replace a guitar player for a band on tour. Similarly, Suki St. James, a brilliant chef at the Independence Inn and then the Dragonfly Inn, is reduced greatly by her third pregnancy in season 7. After her second pregnancy, she informs Jackson that she does not want to have another child and that she wishes for him to get a vasectomy. As mentioned previously, she stopped taking her birth control pill because she was under the impression that her husband had gotten the procedure done. So she is incredibly upset by the news that she's pregnant despite not wishing to be. Similarly to her daughter, Lorelai appears more concerned about Jackson's perspective. Well, I guess he didn't really want to get a vasectomy. And Lorelai doesn't remind her friend that she does not need to continue her pregnancy if she doesn't wish to. Instead, she starts talking about the quote-unquote good stuff, about babies, such as how cute they are, the newborn smell, the first bath, etc., etc. Suki recognizes this and even says, "Oh God, I know what you're doing. You're trying to make this sound good." I already anticipate the rebuttal stating that, well, Melissa McCarthy, who plays Suki, was pregnant in real life then, so they just wrote in her pregnancy into the show. Or, well, Amy Sherman Palladino was not part of the production of season 7, so it doesn't count. Number 1, yes, you're right. But why did they assassinate what complexity her character had left, and then also include the lack of informed consent? 2, again, yes, you are correct. She stepped away for the last season. However, the writing of Lorelai, Sherry, and Rory's pregnancies indicates something else entirely. Lorelai was portrayed as acting out before getting pregnant, and pregnancy forced this conformity on her being. Similarly, Sherry's priorities and way of living do not conform to the idea of how women should be, and after the 3rd season, she's no longer seen, quite literally, only heard about through the instance of leaving her daughter because she believes she put a hold on her career for far too long. Rory, in the revival, is far from a successful journalist we once met in the original run, and she was cheating with her ex-boyfriend, Logan Huntsberger, when she becomes pregnant, uttering the famous last 4 words Sherman Palladino teased for many years. But hey, the revival was released in 2016 on a streaming platform, so perhaps Sherman Palladino would be able to provide a choice to her characters if she wanted to, right? She would be able to be explicit and show her stance, not just through Easter eggs anymore. In an interview with TV Line, Sherman Palladino states, "By the way, Rory doesn't have to keep the baby. There are choices here that she can make. It's just the left turn. It's that curveball that life throws you. And the fact that Rory has gone through this whole journey of trying to figure out what the life is going to be and thinks, okay, I figured it out, and then, no, I haven't. It's also the time to be thinking about having a baby if you're going to be thinking about it. During the time of the release of the show, abortion was discussed in popular shows such as Scandal and Jane the Virgin, so the show can therefore not be lauded as a pro-choice show, just like how Harry Potter cannot be LGBTQ representation just because J.K. Rowling claimed after its completion that Dumbledore was gay. Could Gilmore Girls instead be viewed as a show that promotes sociosexual scripts and thus regulates the sexuality of consumers? At least I think so. Janet R. Jacobson, in their article Sex plus Freedom equals Regulation. Why? Explains, in short, sex is not just a private matter. It matters, a great deal in fact, in American public life. Sex is neither the truth of ourselves nor a frivolous concern of the privileged. It is rather a social relation constituted by a constitutive of the various social relations that have made this historical moment possible. Additionally, when discussing John D'Amelio's Capitalism and Gay Identity, Jacobson analyzes, in thinking through the problem that D'Amelio puts for us, why is a sexual freedom induced by capitalism accompanied by sexual regulation? We need to consider the possibility that we are not facing a dialectic between capitalist freedom and dominative regulation, but rather regulation is internal to the capitalist notion of freedom itself. From this perspective, sexual regulation is not the antithesis of modern freedom. It is constitutive of freedom as we know it. In simpler terms, in our capitalistic society, sex and its discussion of it will always be regulated in one way or another. Even this TV show from the early 2000s has something to say to its consumers about how and when they can engage in sexual activity by enforcing sociosexual scripts in its writing and dialogue. Through the monetary influence of executives, networks, and advertisers, shows like this, that may indulge in the conversation of sex and thus provide a form of liberation, will restrict the viewer's choice. Is Gilmore Girls an accurate portrayal of sex, pregnancy, and choice, or merely a narrative that the leaders of this world want us to perceive? That is a question for you to answer now.